Somebody asked what the longest-lived storm was.
Okay.
In 1994, John. 31 days.
John.
31 days. It tracked over 7,100 miles. In fact, it crossed the date line in the Pacific, became a typhoon, and then crossed it again and ended its life as a hurricane. 7,100 miles. Imagine talking about Dorian for an entire month. Thankfully, we will not have to. There's the center on radar, just now well to the east of Charleston. It's starting to pick up its speed just a little bit more, it looks like, in the last couple images, throwing that onshore wind up through Wilmington, where the storm surge is going to be critical the next couple of hours. But back behind it, the winds turn around, and it's blowing all the water back out that it originally blew in there earlier today. There's also a severe weather threat with tornadoes. Tornado watch here is for these outermost bands that have already caused several tornadoes. And in fact, that severe threat does creep northwards. Storm Prediction Center has us in a level 2 in the area in yellow, a level 3 farther to the south and east. So overnight tonight, don't be surprised to get an alert on your phone, especially in North Carolina, of a tornado warning. So keep that in mind, too. That's also a threat. Coming to you from Nags Head. We're only a couple miles from Alley Weatherton, but man, has the winds pick up here. We've got to be over hurricane force wind gusts right now. We are right along NC 12, just, a row of houses back from the ocean. The winds, I'd say, we're probably just due north right now. We are still getting pelted by all that sand. And I heard Evan talking about it. Kind of feels like acupuncture. I got a better one for you, Evan, if he's listening. It feels like it, when your arm or your leg falls asleep and it starts to come back. It feels like those little pins hitting you all over the place. And whole crew today. We got, I kid you not, Nick, Nico, Nicholas, Nicolette, Nikki's over there. And then I don't know where
Nicole is.
Nicole is not here yet. Okay, but anywho, Tom, let's talk a little bit about what's going on at this festival. Yesterday, you had record levels yesterday because of the weather. That's a great question, and I do have the answer, Adrian. We're going to see the heat break by the end of this week, and we're going to get to that in a second. But today we broke a record, a 78-year-old record set back in 1942. We hit 102 this afternoon. The old record was 101. When you factor in the humidity, we have the heat index value that is just astronomical in a lot of areas. Feels like 112 in Newport News, 110 out the door in Hertford, dangerously high in Portsmouth at 118, 109 in Williamsburg, and it feels like 110 also in Elizabeth City. Now, going forward, we have several more days of heat indices that high. Look at tomorrow with FutureCast. We're right back up to 113 heat index value by tomorrow afternoon, and even into Tuesday, even though slightly lower, still excessively hot. Feeling like 108 in Norfolk, 110 in Edenton Tuesday afternoon. That being said, the excessive heat warnings, heat advisories have been extended, pushed through tomorrow night until 9 p.m. So why has it been so hot? First, we need to understand that. A ridge of high pressure has set up along the eastern seaboard, a heat dome. The good news is that this looks to back westwards, and we start to get in on some of the trough here, the dip in the jet stream, allowing highs to return to near average, which this time of the year, mid to upper 80s, by Thursday and Friday. So we just have to hold on for a few more days. Visible satellite imagery shows a pretty healthy looking storm here. Doesn't resemble a very powerhouse of a hurricane, but it is starting to get there and organize just a little bit better. Now, it's got healthy outflow aloft, and it has inflow channels down to the south. That shows us that it's starting to ventilate a little bit better. But there are some hurdles on the way as we go through the next 24 to 48 hours. I also want to point out, because earlier this week we were talking about the immense size of this system. It was stretching over 1,200 miles in diameter. Now it's contracted a bit, down to around 500, and that's allowing that wind field to condense and get stronger, which is why it's strengthened to a Category 1 hurricane. But the velocity signatures on this, just outside of any of these storms, out into Suffolk, you're talking close to 50 miles per hour, over 50 miles an hour near Reynoldson, near Gatesville, 55 miles an hour, Joppa area right now, 70 miles per hour. Now, I want to preface that number with letting you know that that's extraordinarily far from the radar site out in Wakefield. So this is taking a sampling higher up in the atmosphere. The radar beam shoots out at a little bit of an angle to account for elevation and any geography. So that's sampling at a little bit higher aloft. Certainly, that's possible to get down to the ground in some of these thunderstorms with a heavy downpour that will suppress that very strong wind down to the ground. So it's possible there, but that's interesting to see so far that far out from that storm center.
That energy, that momentum for the past several days.
And the direction of where it's originating, sometimes when we get cold fronts coming in from the northwest, the mountains help us out there, right? It just destroys the storms itself. This general movement of these storms is developing to the southwest and lifting to the northeast, and generally they tend to maintain their structure a little bit better at that point.
Right, and there's just
earlier in south side, things have quieted down since, but you just have to look at what's going on to your south to see what will be coming in the short term here. We look at velocity signatures here in terms of pointing out where we could see the greatest possibility of the spin up of a tornado or two. Now, in the polygon, when it's issued, the warning itself, it covers a pretty large area. Even though you'll get the warning on your phone saying you're under a tornado warning, not every area in that polygon is going to experience a tornado, okay? You have to watch for this little couplet like we're seeing right here in this Murfreesboro warning polygon that would possibly have the strongest winds and potentially even a tornado. So clear skies for all of us right now, but off to the west we do have our next storm system starting to brew, and that'll be building into our area with the rain breaking on out after the sun goes down tomorrow. So the next few hours here locally, temperatures in the mid-50s to start, but starting to fall back into the low 40s by later tonight with a few extra clouds by tomorrow morning. We'll talk more about that 7-day forecast and look at your weekend and those rain chances in just a few minutes. Here is that system now off to our south and west. Has a tornado watch box on along it now. Things have kind of weakened a little bit. That's expected in the overnight time frame, but as it moves into a very warm, humid air mass, the winds are stronger out ahead of it. We'll see that whole line strengthen. Now, during the daylight hours, as I mentioned, only the isolated threat. Here's what I'm going to be watching down to the south here. What develops in eastern North Carolina is lifting due north. It's an update for you here from the Storm Prediction Center. They've been all over this for the last several days with this severe threat, and this morning it does warrant an upgrade in certain areas in the red here, and that's a level 4 out of a 5-level system. So extremely good chances of seeing severe weather here farther to the west. Now notice parts of our area have actually dropped to a level 2. Now I do not want you to look at this and say, oh, we're good now. We're only down to a level 2. This is not the case. Our threat forecast has not changed at all. We're still very much so concerned with gusts up to 60 to 80 miles per hour. And with 1 to 3 inches of rain on top of that, we're talking about compromised root systems, trees coming on down on power lines, and power outages. So still a very impactful event coming our way.
Snow, Tim?
It's a possibility, guys. Let's start with that because that's really the meat and potatoes of the forecast here. Will we see some snow this week? Time frame we're looking at right now, Thursday into Friday. We're halfway up on our snow meter. It is possible, and I'll show you why. Some of the best signals we've seen so far this winter, hasn't been many, but this one has both of our long-range global computer models showing there's possibility, if everything falls into place, of seeing some frozen wintry precipitation. Here we are, Thursday, 10:30 at night. So we have the sun is down at this point, cold air in place, and the possibility of a period of some snow wrapping up by Friday morning. What does the GFS see? That was the Euro, by the way, we just looked at. The GFS, a little bit different, but the same overall pattern here. Cold air in place, just we don't have as much of the moisture streaming up to the north and west, so we could see some flurries here. Euro is certainly a little bit more bullish on this particular storm right now. Keep in mind, several more runs to go, and things will change.
Our very own Tim Pandajis is there to give us a look. Bruh, how's it looking?
Nicole, you know, you have a little one in the house that I think would really enjoy this. It starts today, goes all the way through January 2nd. And to be honest, this is something that all ages can enjoy. It never gets old. And in a year that we've really struggled to find any sort of normalcy, the folks here at Norfolk Botanical Gardens have worked hard for the past several weeks to make sure this event that's on its 26th year would be that harbinger of hope, and the lights are a little bit brighter this year when folks come on out and